So how do we realise that we are whole and complete right now? How do we really believe that? How do we stop the patterns of thinking which keeps telling us that we aren't whole right now and that we have to achieve 1,000,001 things before we can achieve wholeness? How can we really step into our freedom? Because if we think about it, that is what we are searching for. When we're searching for wholeness, we are searching really for the freedom of our patterns of thinking, our thinking patterns. We want to be free of these limiting beliefs that we aren't whole and complete. And really, we aren't meant to go back and achieve 1,000,001 things in order to reach this wholeness within. Instead, we are meant to work on dissolving the thinking patterns which prevent us from seeing that we are whole and complete right now, just as we are. Our egos create a to-do list which we believe we have to achieve and tick everything off the list before we are whole. Whether we realise that consciously or subconsciously we have this list, I think it's both. In most cases we realise things that we want to achieve or feel we need to better about ourselves, but also there's a lot of subconscious negative self-criticisms which we feel we need to better ourselves in order to feel worthy of our own self-love and acceptance. So we've got all these things going on, all these ideas of what we need to achieve before we are entitled to feel and be whole and complete. We have this idea of what wholeness and completion is, and we have these ideas of perfectionism and what we need to do in order to step in that direction. And it can all feel extremely overwhelming and like an impossible task, and we don't know where to start, and therefore we feel stuck and like we're not getting anywhere. And it's all because we are judging ourselves. And this is what we're supposed to realise. We're not supposed to achieve all these things, all these goals we set ourselves, which are basically to do with our own self-judgments about us not being good enough right now, and therefore believing we aren't whole. We're not supposed to achieve all these things to feel better about ourselves. We're not meant to achieve these things so we stop criticising ourselves, because that never works. Instead, we're supposed to realise that we have unrealistic expectations of ourselves, and that we are criticising and judging ourselves and not accepting ourselves just the way we are right now. And we need to really look and see where these ideas of perfectionism are coming from. What we're supposed to do now is dig a little bit deeper and see and recognise the ways that we are judging ourselves, and that these ideas of ourselves being imperfect, and that us telling ourselves that means we're not whole and complete and good enough and worthy and healed right now. We need to realise that these ideas we have about ourselves are the problem. The beliefs that we can't be whole because we have all these supposed imperfections. We need to realise that it's that belief in itself which is the problem, not all these 1,000,001 ways we judge ourselves and feel, oh, I can't be free right now because I'm not healed from this, that or the other, or I haven't achieved this, that or the other, or I can only be happy once I've changed my own habits that I'm not happy about. I can only be free and whole when I'm perfect enough so that I don't criticise myself anymore. Whereas really we need to realise that it's the self-criticism which is the problem in the first place. And that until we realise that, we will always criticise ourselves, and we will never feel good enough, never feel complete. We will always feel like there's loads of loose ends within ourselves that we need to tie up before we can achieve wholeness, and be truly present, because that's also what we're searching for. We're searching for the freedom to be truly present, and by that I mean to be truly free and happy and at peace within ourselves. And no amount of trying to become perfect in all these areas that we tell ourselves we are imperfect, that will never create peace within us, because instead we need to concentrate on really looking into that critical self, really questioning that voice within that tells us that we need to be this, that and the other before we can ever begin to feel happy, whole and complete. So what we need is a shift in focus. We're looking at an impossible route and thinking, oh my God, I can't. Where do I begin? I can't achieve this. I can't achieve wholeness. I cannot achieve being worthy. I cannot. We basically creating our own limitations through believing that we aren't whole and complete right now. And this is all to do with like conditioning and patterns from our past. Society's judgments of what it means to be competent as a human being, family's ideas and all the things we were repressed about ourselves because we felt weren't good enough, and making the list bigger and bigger of things we need to change in order to, it's like we're trying to become someone else, really, rather than just accepting ourselves as we are. And this is all like patterns of the mind. It's all like surface level. It's like going in a circle on the surface, and the reason it doesn't work and it will feel overwhelmed by it all and feel like progress is slow or back and forth, and it's because we're focusing too much on the surface level, on the mind's pattern, and the mind patterns aren't reality, so we cannot achieve the reality of peace and wholeness if we aren't even looking at the reality. We're not looking deep enough, because the place where true peace, wholeness, healing, love, perfection already is beneath all that mind patterns, all the mind's negative beliefs, all the limitations the mind likes to create. Everything that we want is already within us, and the reason why we search for that wholeness our whole lives is because we know that it's within us. We know it's within us, so we're always trying to search for it and bring it out. But due to like conditioning that everyone goes through, we've been taught to live in our minds too much. So we think that we're going to find that wholeness through our minds, through overthinking, through analysing, through trying to problem solve in our minds. But the mind's always going in circles, and it always feels like we're not getting anywhere, and the mind never really gets anywhere because the mind is too limited, and the wholeness never comes through the mind. Wholeness never comes through achieving something and then our mind saying, yes, I achieved it, therefore I'm whole. So as we know, that never works, because when we do achieve something, there's still a million other things which we feel like we cannot even grasp, because there's so much clutter in our minds that we think we need to sort out and tidy up. And it's because that is the way the mind works. That's the way the mind's been conditioned. But the mind isn't the truth. So we cannot find the truth when we are focusing on trying to find peace within ourselves, within our minds, within our thinking. We need to look deeper than that. Wholeness is the truth of who we already are when we see beyond our mind's limitations. Wholeness and perfection already is who we are, and we always try and find it. We're always searching for it because we know it's attainable, because it already is the truth. We've just lost sight of that. And we've lost sight of that in our imagination and our minds. We imagine that we aren't whole. We've been told that we aren't whole, we aren't good enough, all sorts of things. And wholeness is about realising that the mind is just a program, and in order to let our wholeness and peace and freedom surface, because that's what it's about it's surfacing above our mind's limitations. It's not about achieving it, it's about it rising above our mind's limitations, so we realise and we know and we become the embodiment of that wholeness. We know that we are that. The reason we feel like a mess when we think about what we believe we need to heal is because the mind is constantly collecting and hoarding beliefs, messages, our self-criticism, the ways we judge ourselves and compare ourselves to an image we have in our mind of what we need to be and what it means to be whole and complete. But we need to realise that what we imagine that wholeness and perfection to be is not true. We need to realise that we are judging ourselves based on the minds, whether it's from our own minds, the society's mind, parents' mind, whoever. We need to realise that the mind is very limited in perception compared to the infinite wisdom of our heart and soul, our truth. So constantly staying in the level of the mind, I'm not good enough because I believe in my head, based on what others have taught me, that I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough to reach this state of peace and self-love because of this, that and the other. When we keep on that level, when we keep focusing on that level and trying to sort everything out on that level, then we will never we'll never realise that we already are wholeness. We already are complete. We already are love. We already are healed. When we stop focusing on the surface level, the mind is like the surface level, and when we stop looking at that level and go to the true level of where wholeness is, it's about recognising that the mind is just a program and it's not the truth. So we need to see the truth of our wholeness right now by seeing ourselves as the soul embodiment that we are. and keep seeing ourselves at that level and catching ourselves every time that we're judging ourselves based on something in our head, about a belief from our mind. Look to the truth and you find the truth. Look to illusions and stay at the surface of illusions and you live in illusion. The reason it feels impossible is because when we stay trying to fix everything in our minds, we are living in an illusion. So it's not possible to find peace when we're stuck in an illusion. There are no loose ends to be tied up. There is nothing to be achieved before becoming worthy in whatever way we, in our own minds, think worthiness represents, what we think we need to be worthy. And that truly is the key. These might just sound like words, but we need to really recognize this. That there is nothing about us right now that makes us unworthy or incomplete or not ready to be whole. Nothing. The only thing that is needed is to look beyond the mind and look into the truth of who we are on a soul level. Because the mind is only, and the programs are only from this lifetime. And we are here to grow through overcoming the mind in terms of seeing it as seeing the illusions it creates. And our task is, can I see beyond the limitations that have held me back in the past? Can I see beyond the mind's limitations and see my truth as a soul, even in this human form? Can I learn to be the embodiment of my soul? Can I learn to operate through my soul whilst being human with a mind and its limitations? Can I master being soul embodiment? And that simply means, can I see beyond the illusions and see that I am whole, complete, good enough? Can I see that within myself at any given moment, no matter what's happening externally? Can I keep going back to that realization? Can I keep remembering that? Can I keep catching myself whenever I'm judging myself based on my mind's limitations and bring myself back to the truth of who I am as a soul? And the more that we recognize and catch ourselves having these limiting beliefs, and without judging ourselves, when we do realize we're with we're judging ourselves through our minds, then the more we recognise ourselves doing that, the more we will see it as a pattern, and the more the pattern will dissolve. The mind tells us all sorts of things. It tells us I need to be more confident before I'm good enough. I need to earn more money. I need to stop being so lazy. I need to lose weight before I can love myself. I need to be more comfortable sharing my spiritual truth before I'm good enough, before I'm spiritual enough, before I'm worthy to feel like a spiritual person. I need to be a better parent before I can accept myself. I need to heal everything from my past, because if I don't look into every little detail and tie up those loose ends, then they're still going to be floating around inside me, and it's a mess, and I need to sort that out before I can be free and whole. And then our mind tells us I need to stop thinking negatively because I'm failing if I think negatively. So then I need to sort that out and stop doing that. And all the while we beat ourselves up every time we think something negative. Our mind tells us I need to become this perfect spiritual person who meditates for an hour every night, masters yoga, has read 1,000,001 spiritual books, reached enlightenment, can hear my guides speaking to me every moment of the day, etc., etc., and I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy of the spiritual title because I haven't achieved all that, or I achieve that some days and then other days I fall back, so I'm failing. And our minds tell us I need to master that which my parents told me I was a failure at, or I need to become good at this or that because my parents will finally accept me if I achieve that. I need to be this or that because society expects this of me, and if I'm not those things then I'm not good enough. Basically the mind has 1,000,001 things that we judge ourselves for, and it's all based on looking externally. When we look outside of ourselves and compare ourselves to others or to society's expectations or parents, then we never find a sense of peace or wholeness, and we never believe we are wholeness or worthy or perfect as we are right now. But does society as a whole seem healthy? Why do we want to fit in so badly with the collective when the collective is desperately unhealthy? We are here to realise how we are judging ourselves based on the surface level 3D society illusions. We are here to transcend them through recognising our own individuality and that we are soul perfection, so we can become the embodiment of this higher vibration of love, self-acceptance, individuality and health, instead of codependence, fear, greed, ego, etc., which most of the 3D society is going through. We are here to recognise how we are judging ourselves by trying to fit into these society's moulds, and we've come here to transcend them and help others, help the collective to see beyond these limitations And when we are meant to now see past and transcend those things within ourselves, so then we can help others in the future. So this is why we need to realise our perfection is already who we are in truth, in our soul. And we are our soul. We need to stop thinking that our soul is just a part of us and it's separate from our physical selves. We are our soul. And our physical bodies are just an interpretation of our soul on this planet. We're meant to look beyond the mind because it is very limiting to this lifetime and the programs we've learned in this lifetime. And we're meant to live in our heart and our soul truth so we can bring that health and individuality to this planet. We're meant to break free of these limitations of the 3D world and look deeper within. See our perfection that we are right now and embody that. We go in these circles of our minds and feel stuck, so that eventually we realise that staying limited to the mind to try and reach wholeness doesn't work. So we try to find this wholeness in our mind first by thinking we need to fix all these things. And we look outwards for a sense of our identity. And we compare ourselves harshly based on these limitations. So wholeness will never be achieved through judging ourselves based on untruths, i.e. the limitations. So we try to find this wholeness through the mind first before we realise that peace can never come through that avenue. And then we try another path and we begin to look inwards, and we recognise that we are whole, complete, worthy, love and God, and we have been all along.